She said I was overreacting. He's just a coworker. I believed her, until she came home smelling like his cologne. Not perfume, not air freshener, expensive, woody, wrong. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I'm Mark Halley, 37, building inspector. My wife Laura sells real estate. Her taste, my labor. The scent showed up Tuesday. Client meeting, she said. Sure, I waited, checked her listings. Half fake, half long sold. Then a text popped up on our shared tablet. Can't stop thinking about that house. And you. From Ryan. No last name. That night, I reviewed the neighborhood cameras. Her car, Ravenna Street, 11 p.m. Lights on, 2 silhouettes. His hand on her shoulder. I watched 3 times. Closed the laptop. Pretended to sleep when she came home. People always show you who they are, if you wait long enough. Ryan Kerr, developer. Age 34, drove a black Range Rover with expired tabs, owned 3 properties with open code violations across my district. Funny thing about public records, they tell you everything if you know where to look. I spent a week cross-referencing. Laura's evening showings lined up perfectly with Ryan's scheduled property inspections. Not coincidence, coordination. The guy was a hack too. Unpermitted electrical work on 2 sites, structural modifications without engineer approval, and a laundry list of complaints from subcontractors about unpaid invoices. The kind of developer who cuts corners and thinks charm will paper over the cracks. I attended a charity mixer that Thursday. Laura's firm was sponsoring. Something about affordable housing initiatives. Ironic, considering what they actually sold. She didn't know I'd gotten an invite. I wore my one decent suit and blended with the crowd, nursing a beer near the silent auction tables. That's when I heard them. 2 agents from her office, gossiping near the wine bar. Laura's got a special client, one of them said, a blonde woman with sharp features. Must be nice, getting private tours every week. Her friend laughed. Ryan Kerr doesn't need a tour, he needs a decorator, and apparently Laura's volunteering. They kept talking, but I stopped listening. The buzzing in my ears drowned everything else out. Laura appeared across the room, laughing at something Ryan said. He had that tech bro look, fitted shirt, expensive watch, the kind of confidence that comes from never facing real consequences. I left before she saw me. The next Monday, I filed a formal request with the city. Laura's firm leased their office space from a municipal building. My department handled maintenance contracts. That meant security footage fell under public record rules if properly requested. I made sure my request was proper. Tuesday afternoon, I walked into her office with an HR representative and a manila folder. Laura was at her desk, typing something on her laptop. She looked up, smiled automatically, then registered who was with me. The smile vanished. Mark? What's... Ms. Halley, the HR rep interrupted, a middle-aged woman named Patricia with steel-gray hair and no patience for nonsense. We need to discuss some irregularities regarding building access logs. I set the folder on her desk, opened it. Inside were printouts, security timestamps showing her and Ryan entering the office building at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday, leaving at midnight, entering again the following Thursday. Evening showings? I asked quietly. Her face went white, then red. You can't just... Public building, public records, Patricia said flatly, and company policy prohibits after-hours access without prior authorization, which you didn't request. Laura's hands started shaking. He's my husband. This is harassment. This is documentation, I said. Big difference. She stared at me, and something shifted in her expression. Not shame, not regret, anger. Then she laughed, not a nervous laugh. A bitter, sharp sound that made Patricia flinch. You think you can ruin my job? Laura said, standing up. You think you're clever? No, I replied. I think you already did. She grabbed her bag, shoved past me, and walked out. Patricia stood there looking uncomfortable. "We'll need to conduct a full review," she said. "But Mr. Halley, this is complicated." "It's really not," I told her. I went home, checked the bank account on my phone. Empty. Joint savings, 0. Checking, 0. Even the emergency fund we'd built for home repairs, gone. On the kitchen counter, a note in her handwriting, "Don't make this harder than it already is." I sat down at the island, that same spot where I'd first noticed the cologne, and started laughing. Couldn't help it. Oh, sweetheart, I'm just getting started. Ryan Kerr was hosting an investor event. Public announcement on the firm's website, open invite for qualified buyers and partners. The location, that same model home on Ravenna Street, the one with the unpermitted electrical work I'd flagged 6 months ago and never followed up on. Time to follow up. I arrived at 7 p.m. with my city-issued clipboard and badge. The house glowed with warm lighting, expensive furniture staged in every room. 20 people milled around with champagne flutes, discussing square footage and market projections. Laura stood near the fireplace talking to an older couple. She saw me and went rigid. Ryan noticed her reaction, turned, and his expression collapsed. "Evening," I said loudly enough for the room to hear. "City building inspection. Need to check some permit compliance issues." The conversation's end. Someone's glass clinked against a table. "This isn't a good time," Ryan said, forcing a smile. "We're in the middle of—" "Code violations don't schedule appointments," I interrupted, pulling out my tablet. "Electrical work on the second floor. Modifications to load-bearing walls. None of it permitted." A woman in a suit, investor, judging by her expensive watch, frowned. "Is this true?" "There's been a misunderstanding," Ryan said quickly. "Everything's been documented right here," I said, showing her the screen. "Filed 6 months ago. No corrections made. Building's technically not safe for occupancy." The room erupted in murmurs. Laura moved toward me, her face pale. "Mark, don't do this." "Doing my job," I said. "Finally." Ryan tried to salvage it, stepping between me and the investors. "We can discuss this privately." "We can discuss it with the city attorney," I replied. He grabbed my arm. Not hard, just enough to turn me around. "You need to leave." I pulled free, and he pushed my shoulder. Just a shove, nothing major. But enough. I slapped him. Open palm, across the face, the sound sharp in the silent room. His head snapped sideways, champagne splashing from his glass onto the hardwood floor. "That's for my kitchen," I said quietly. Someone gasped. A phone flashed. Camera. Ryan stumbled backward, hand on his cheek, eyes wide with shock and fury. "Get out," he whispered. "Already leaving," I said. "Enjoy explaining this to your investors." I walked out through the front door into the cool evening air. Behind me, the chaos escalated. Shouting, accusations, the click of high heels on hardwood as people fled. The next morning, I filed a formal code violation report. Thorough, factual, complete with photographic evidence and measurement logs. The kind of report that stops construction dead. By noon, I heard through the grapevine that 2 investors had pulled their funding. Ryan's project was frozen. My phone buzzed. "Laura, you happy now?" I typed back, "Not yet." Laura booked a trip. I only knew because she forgot to unlink our shared travel app, one of those couple things you set up and never think about again. The notification popped up Thursday afternoon. Laura's trip to Portland confirmed. Departure, Saturday, 6 a.m. Portland, where Ryan had family according to his public LinkedIn profile. I checked the ferry schedules. To reach SeaTac Airport from Seattle, they'd need to cross Puget Sound. Limited departure times on Saturday morning. I knew which one they'd take. Saturday arrived cold and gray, typical Seattle drizzle turning the streets slick. I drove to the ferry terminal at 5:30 a.m., parked in the commuter lot, and waited. Her Lexus appeared at 5:45, Ryan in the passenger seat. They drove onto the ferry deck, and I followed 3 cars behind. Stayed in my truck until the boat lurched away from the dock. Then I got out and walked. The upper deck was mostly empty, just a handful of early commuters drinking coffee and staring at phones. I found them near the stern railing, Laura's head on Ryan's shoulder, both of them looking at something on his phone, planning their escape. How romantic. I leaned against the railing 10 feet away, close enough they'd notice eventually. Took my time, sipped the coffee I'd brought from home. Ryan saw me first, his whole body tensed. He whispered something to Laura, and she turned, her face draining of color. "Small world," I said. Ryan stood up, positioning himself between Laura and me. Protective. "You need to stop this." "Stop what? Taking the ferry? It's public transportation." "You know what I mean." His voice shook, trying for intimidation but landing on nervous. "The harassment, Harassment?" I laughed. "I filed a legitimate code violation. That's my job. You want to sue the city? Be my guest." Laura stood up too. "Mark, please. This is insane." "What's insane is draining our bank account for a vacation with a guy who can't even keep his permits straight." "That money was mine too," she snapped. "Community property state, sweetheart. 50-50. But you took 100%. Ryan stepped closer. "We're leaving. You can't stop us." "Wouldn't dream of it," I said. Then I pulled out my phone, made a show of checking something. "Hey, did you get your car towed from the model home lot?" His expression changed. "What?" "Weird. I could have sworn I saw a tow notice for a black Range Rover. Expired registration, unpaid parking citations. City was cracking down on that street." Ryan yanked his phone out, fingers flying across the screen. His face went ashen. He started, voice rising. "You called them. I didn't call anyone," I said truthfully. "But turns out when you rack up enough tickets, parking enforcement eventually catches up. Crazy how that works." Laura grabbed his arm. "Ryan, it's fine. We'll deal with it when—" "Deal with it?" He shook her off, rounding on her. "You said he was harmless. You said he'd roll over." "I didn't. He just cost me everything." Ryan's voice echoed across the deck. A few passengers turned to look. "My car, my project, my reputation, all because you couldn't keep your goddamn mouth shut about him." Laura's face crumpled. "That's not fair." "Fair?" Ryan laughed bitterly. "Nothing about this is fair. I should have never—" He stopped himself, but the damage was done. The sentence hung there, unfinished, while Laura stared at him with dawning horror. The ferry horn blasted. We were approaching the dock. Ryan grabbed his bag, started walking away. "Find your own way to Portland." "What?" Laura chased after him. "Ryan, wait!" He didn't wait, just kept walking, disappearing down the stairs toward the car deck. Laura stood there, frozen, while the ferry bumped against the dock pilings. She turned to look at me, her eyes wet. "I hope you're proud of yourself," she whispered. "Not yet," I said again. "But I'm getting there." I followed them to SeaTac. Not stalking, they posted their gate number on social media, because apparently even fleeing the scene of your collapsed life requires Instagram updates. Gate N12, Alaska Airlines to Portland. I bought a coffee and a newspaper, settled into a seat across from their gate, and waited. They arrived separately. Ryan came first, dragging a roller bag and looking like he'd aged 5 years overnight. Laura appeared 10 minutes later, walking slowly, her eyes red-rimmed. They didn't sit together, didn't even look at each other. I waited until boarding started, then stood up and walked over. "Business or pleasure?" I asked. "Hard to tell these days." Ryan's head snapped up. "You've got to be kidding me." "Public airport, public terminal." I sipped my coffee. "Free country." Laura stood up, shaking. "What do you want?" "Nothing," I said honestly. "Just wanted to see you off. Wish you a safe flight. That kind of thing." "You're insane," Ryan said, but his voice cracked. "You've ruined everything." "I ruined everything?" I smiled. "That's rich. He stood up, got in my face. Close enough I could smell his coffee breath, see the bags under his eyes. You cost me my business, my investors, my... I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen. From somewhere outside in the parking structure, a car alarm blared. Loud, rhythmic, impossible to ignore. Everyone in the terminal turned to look. Ryan's car alarm. His face went purple. How did you... You left the app open on your phone, I said. When you shoved me at the open house, Bluetooth connection still active. Funny how technology works. The alarm kept going, echoing through the terminal. Security guards started moving toward the sound. Passengers complained. Ryan fumbled with his phone, trying to shut it off, but I'd already locked him out of the app remotely. Turn it off, he shouted. Can't, I said, but I'm sure security will help you figure it out, especially when they check your outstanding parking fines, and the expired registration, and, oh yeah, the fact that your car's probably been booted by now. He lunged at me. Security caught him before he made contact, 2 officers grabbing his arms and pulling him backward. He fought them, screaming obscenities, while Laura stood frozen in horror. Sir, you need to calm down, one officer said. He's harassing us, Ryan yelled, pointing at me. He's been following us, stalking. I'm standing in a public terminal, I said calmly. Drinking coffee, reading the paper, is that illegal? The officers looked at each other. One spoke into his radio. The alarm kept blaring. They escorted Ryan away. Laura started to follow, then stopped and turned back to me. Why? She whispered. Why are you doing this? You drained me dry, I said quietly, for a vacation with a man who can't even pay his parking tickets. Did you really think there wouldn't be consequences? She opened her mouth, closed it. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I walked away. Through the automatic doors, into the parking structure, rain misting down from the concrete ceiling. Behind me, Ryan's car alarm finally went silent. Shouting echoed from the terminal, security, explanations, the unraveling of whatever plan they'd cobbled together. I got in my truck, started the engine, and sat there for a moment. Some people hit rock bottom, others build a foundation there. I put the truck in gear and drove home.